Hello everyone. I hope you are doing well. My name is Sagar, and in this video we'll talk about pending vendor invoices. So first of all, let me go to my all purchase order form, or let me go to accounts payable only, and from here I will navigate to purchase order. So what I will do, I will create the pending vendor invoice. So let me pick this one. Okay, so if you see this one, I can invoice this one from here, but instead of invoicing this purchase order from here, I want to create a pending vendor invoices. Okay, so what I will do, I will go to my modules here, accounts payable and invoices and pending vendor invoices. So I will create a pending vendor invoice for this purchase order number 00 whatever zeros 1 2 3 4 5 6 6 zeros 42, and then I will post this pending vendor invoice as well. So for that, I will do everything from runnable class. If you want to create a batch job, you simply need to put the service code inside your batch, and for sure you will need to do some more testing and other steps, but this video will give you a brief idea of what all you need to do. So I'll say create pend invoice, and let me make I capital here. I will add. Okay, now this is going to be a long code, because we are going to manually insert data into multiple tables. So just to give you a brief overview, we need a purge table first, right, to get the reference of our purchase order. So let me first of all define my purge table. So we'll do everything one by one. So I will simply say my purge table. Okay, and here I will define this purge table equals to purge table. We'll not go into formatting and indentation because you want to focus on creating this business process. So I'm going to copy this purchase order. As this purchase order have only one line, so we'll get output more easily. Okay, so from this I can easily get the current purchase order, all the reference, like whatever I need. Okay, now there's involvement of multiple tables again. So the first table that we are going to use is we are going to use it for headers, because when you will create a pending vendor invoices, there also invoice, you will have a main invoice, then you will have lines as well. So if I just give you a brief overview, so we are going to leverage 4 tables here. 2 would be subtables. So let me define my first table that I'm going to use, that is vend invoice info table, and let me define here vend invoice info table. All right, now the first thing is that I will start utilizing this init value. So vend invoice info table dot init value. So I will call init value for all the tables because it helps me to assign the default values. So if we go to definition, oh, we don't have here, no worries. Okay, then what I can do, info table. So I'm going to assign the values from my purge table first. So I will say init from purge table, and here I can pass the reference of my purchase order table, and I'm going to save this. And here, if you will look into this, let me go to definition. Okay, we have this type framework here. Okay, so all this will get default like your purchase order and blah blah information. So we have this type class here. All right, then I will define here again. I will keep writing this complete table again and again. When invoice info table dot, I will use this document origin field because I'm going to manually create it. So I will say document origin. This would be my manual. Okay, then I need to specify my other fields. For example, not example, like I need to get it, so I can say currency code. So I can copy my currency codes from my purge table, and similarly I can get my delivery name here. So when invoice info table dot, here I can say my delivery name equals to, and then I can get my delivery name from my purge table as well. So I will say delivery name, and further now I need to provide my actual invoice number. So I will say my name, so GAR, and here is 01, right? So I will say here 1 2, okay, or 1 2 3, let me say this. So we'll create the invoice with this particular name. Okay, now once this will be done, then what all I will need to do, okay, yeah, so then I can assign the value in my other field. So let me do one thing. Why don't I copy this and paste it so that I don't need to type the complete table. So I will assign value inside my this purge name, and again this will be also from my purge table dot purge name, and then I can define the value inside my trans date. So I will again say date time util function. I will say get system date, and here I will say date time util, and I will say get user preferred time zone function. All right, and then similarly I have my this document date as well. Document date, here also I can use the same like date time util. I will say get system date, because this is something you will typically do it in batch job. So date time util, and so get user preferred time zone. All right, here now the dates are completed. Now further I will assign value inside my when invoice save status. This is going to be a pending, right? So I can say when invoice save status, and this would be pending, and here I will say variance is fine. So I can say when invoice table dot, I will check my variance. It's not variance, it's last match variance field. Here I will say last match variance options, and I will say okay. Here we have this extended enum here. All right, then similarly my job status, param job status, this will be in waiting. Param job status waiting. Ideally I need to align it, put it here in a single equals to here, but I'm not going to do it because it will take good time and the video will get longer unnecessarily. Okay, so we have talked about many fields, but we haven't talked about dimensions. So they play a very crucial role. So let's now get the dimension. dot default dimension, and then I can get my from. I can use this. Why I'm getting this issue. Dot. There's a method called copy dimension, and here it requires my dimension. Okay, so I can get my dimension from my purse table. So I can say purse table dot default dimension. All right, let me copy this, and then I will use this default row, and I will say here purge table. All right, and at the end I'm going to insert value here. All right, so this looks fine now. All right, now my main header table is ready, but whereas now we can have multiple invoices headers, right? So for that we are now going to introduce our next table, that is vend invoice info sub table. I will say vend invoice info, vend invoice info sub table. Okay, now I have simply inserted this one. Now I will focus on my vend invoice info subtable. So for that, first of all, I will check whether I have data here. Vend invoice info subtable. Not this one. Where is this? So anyway, I can paste it here. Not this one. Control Z. So if I have data in this one, then only I can move ahead, right? Yep. So now I will focus into my this new table, that is vend invoice info sub table. First of all, I will use my clear. I'm going to write code somewhat quickly because we have a lot to write. So then I will use my init value method to initialize anything. Then similarly, I will call out my default row function as well. Okay, now we need to link between these two tables, like vend invoice info subtable, comma, this vend invoice info table. So I will say dot param id equals to, I'm going to realize vend invoice info table dot param id. Okay, and then similarly, I copy it here. Yeah. Similarly, now I will say my original purge ID. I can get it from my either purge table or from my vend invoice info table as well. So I will say purge ID, and then similarly here I will also specify my purchase number. This vend invoice info table dot purge name. All right, and then similarly I will provide my table referential ID as well. Table ref ID equals to, I will say here vend invoice info table dot table referential ID, and then at the end I can simply do a insertion. All right, I can save this. So I'm done with my this vend invoice info subtable as well. Okay, now I need to focus into my lines table. Okay, now I need to check my every line as well, right? So that's why I need a purge line table. So here I will define my now purge line table. So I will say purge line. All right. So let me go back, like come down here. Okay, I have completed this one. So yeah, now let me use this while select purge line, because I need to loop through every purchase line, right? So I will say where purge line dot purge id equals to from my purge table dot purge id. So it will iterate me through all purchase line number. All right, now I'm going to introduce my next table, that is my vend invoice info line, and let me even declare that another table as well, vend invoice info line. I'll say here vend invoice info line. Similarly, here I will define vend invoice info sub line vend invoice info invoice info sub line. Okay, now I'll define all my tables, and let me come here. So what I will do, I will say vend invoice info line dot, I'm going to call this clear method initially. Now I'll copy this. Okay, and the first thing as usual I'm doing is I will simply start assigning the values. For example, I can call my init value method first, and then I can leverage this init from purge line, and here I will pass the buffer of my purge line. Alright, then similarly I can assign data into my other fields. For example, I've written this wrong here. Dot, I'm going to assign delivery name that I can get from my this. Now I will leverage my vend invoice info table dot delivery name, and similarly I can get my param id from my again this vend invoice info table dot param id, and then similarly here I will assign my table referential id equals to vend invoice info table dot table table ref id. Okay, then I will assign value inside my currency code. So I can say vend invoice info table dot currency code. Now once this is done, then I can specify line number here. So line number is something that I will get from my purge line dot line number. Here we go. And then similarly here I can get my order account. So this is something I can copy from my vend invoice info table dot order account. Similarly, once we have this order account, basically the vendor account, then I need the invoice account of that vendor as well. So I will say vend invoice info line dot, I can see here my invoice account equals to, so I can copy it from the same vend invoice info table dot invoice account. Okay, then I can start creating lines. So I need this item ID. Okay, now item ID is something that I haven't yet leveraged. Now our purchase line number and our actual packing slip numbers could be different. So now I need my this vend packing slip transaction table. So I will define my vend packing slip trans. I'll say vend packing slip trans. All right. And now here I will need a reference of this table. So what I will do, I will use a select here. I can see here select asterisk from when packing slip trans. But now I need to specify where my when packing slip trans dot, I can see here original perch ID is equals to I can check it from my perch line dot perch ID. Okay, now this will not be sufficient. Then I will check my what do we call item numbers as well. So I can say when packing slip trans dot item ID equals to my perch line dot item ID. And once this is done, then let me check my slip trans dot my purchase line number as well. Purchase line number equals to my perch line dot line number. So this will get me that data into my this when packing slip trans. So I'm writing a generic code. Eventually, like the more scenarios will be there, the more refinement we'll need to do in that code. So from now here, I can say when packing slip trans dot item ID dot item ID. And then similarly, I can assign value into my different field. For example, invent item ID or inventim ID. So that is also I will copy from my when packing slip trans only. I will say dot, and here I can use this invent dim ID. So let me save this. Okay, this looks fine. So now I will go towards my invent trans ID equals to when packing slip trans dot invent trans ID, and then this is going to be a manual one, so I will say that document origin is equals to document origin. Here I'll specify manual. Now let's talk about quantities. Okay, now like only few lines of code are left, so I will say when invoice info line dot. Now I will say receive now. So receive now would be equals to my this when packing slip trans dot quantity, that is QTY. And then similarly here I can say purge price is something get me from my purge line, because there will have most authentic one, purge price. Similarly now I will use my invent now. Invent now equals to this when packing slip trans. For now I will assume it is equals to quantity, and then I need to tell what would be the price. So for that again I will say dot line amount is equals to, so what I'm going to do here, I will say purge line dot line amount. I'm going to divide it from my purge line dot purge quantity then we'll multiply it from our when invoice info line dot receive now. Then let me define my dimension now. So I will say when invoice info line dot default dimension. I will say purge line dot default dimension. And then I'm going to finally insert the data into this table. Now we are only left with one table. That is our vendor invoice info subline. Now I will check if the data is available inside this table. So that is vendor invoice info line. Here we go. So once I have data here, I can start this loop. Before that, let me copy it from here. I will go down. Okay. First is I'm going to clear everything. And then I can use this init value if in case we have something. Okay, then here I'm going to leverage this param ID, so that will reference to my vendor invoice info line dot param ID. Now I will start using my line referential rec ID. So that is something I will get from vendor invoice info line dot rec ID. Then I will say receive now. So that would be nothing but would be equals to my this line one. So here receive now. And then similarly I will insert data into my this invent now field as well. Invent now. And then I can reference my general referential table ID. Referential table ID equals to when packing slip trans. So here I'm going to have this table ID, general referential table ID. That is fine. Then I will assign my rec ID. So I will say general referential rec ID equals to this when packing slip trans dot rec ID. And then similarly I will say my document ID. This will be nothing, this will be equals to my packing slip ID. So I can say dot here packing slip ID. Alright. Now once this is done, now I have data inside my this as well. So I will finally call my insert, and now this will help me to create a pending vendor invoice in my finance and operation. But again, I want to post it as well. So what I will do, I will write the posting code as well. Purge form letter. I'll say a purge form letter. And now I will say purge form letter equals to purge form letter colon. And here I'm going to new from, 1 second here. So I will say purge form. I'm going to leverage this invoice one. I'll say a new from saved invoice. Here I need to pass my vendor invoice info table. Vendor invoice info table. I have to make sure because we have written this code in a hurry way, so I hope everything should be fine. But yeah, let's see. So now what I will do, I will call my update here, and here I need to pass my table. So let's see here, vendor invoice info table dot my purge table. and it is asking for me the number that I can provide my invoice number. So my invoice number would be inside this field now. That is Sagar123, right? The one which we have written somewhere here. Here it is. Yeah, here we go. Alright, I'm hoping this should work. Let's quickly verify we have line. Let's verify this left hand side. Do we have this only? Okay, and this is inserted. Okay. Yeah, let me do a build of this and then we'll verify. So we're not able to see this pending vendor invoices because we are posting as well. So let's do one thing here. So I will display info message here. I will say info is completed. 1 second. I will say, or let me do one thing. Now to verify whether this is created, I'm going to introduce something like this. So what I will do, I will say here info pending vendor invoice created. I'm going to write it quickly, and here what I will do, I will declare a dialog field here. Dialog equals to new dialog, and here I will say hello, something like this, and I can say if my dialog dot run, so here I will simply return. So this will force me to press OK, then only this code will run. And once this will run, here I want to display invoice. Here I can say pending vendor invoice is posted. Okay, let's build this code. This has already become a long video, so I will simply build this. Alright, so the build is completed and let's do the testing. So here I will paste my this create pend invoice, and this will take some time because we have a lot of code that is running. And in the meantime, I will refresh my pages as well. Alright, so I've got this pending vendor invoice created here. Come down here. Yeah, here we go. This pending vendor invoice created. Okay, till now the code has run. So now if I will refresh my this, so I can see my this pending vendor invoices get created with this Sagar123, and it is passed as well, and it has been referenced with purchase order number 42. And if I will open this, and in the meantime I will go to my this here. Okay, and here you can see this button is also getting enabled from here as well. Okay, I see the lines have not yet available here, so there is some issue. Let me quickly check the code. Alright guys, so on debugging I can see that the when packing slip transaction doesn't have any data, so that's why this is failing. So I will use any other purchase order. So when I go to this 42, here we don't have any item number. So what I will do, let me... Alright guys, so I'm going to leverage this purchase order because it is in a received status. Okay, so what I will do, let me refresh this page here. So if you see, the invoice is not yet generated for this one, so I will simply change this, and apart from this, let me update my invoicing number as well. I am going to do a build, and then we'll see. So the build is completed, and I will run my runnable class, and let me navigate to that purchase order again. 75. It will take some time. Okay, so the pending vendor invoices is now created, and I should see two lines here. We'll open this purchase order. So we have two items here. Similarly, here I should also get the same. So we have the same items here, and let me try to post. So as the pending vendor invoices get created successfully, but like our code was not able to post it, probably there will be another issue. So I'll need to debug it. But whereas if you will try to post it from here, okay. So I think this is the issue. Update match status. Okay. So what I will do, it should post now. So in our code we'll need to, I think, change this particular condition, then it will work. So typically we can also turn off that flag as well, where the invoicing matching is not mandatory in accounts payable. So we'll just wait for this to get posted. Okay, so now this is successfully posted as well. So even if you will refresh here, now we should see invoice channel here. All right. So this is how you can leverage this complete code. Okay. So it's a big code, so I cannot again reiterate here. You can watch the video again, and this should help you. Thank you for watching this video.